foresight and innovation. And let's start, have a look at the ways we could better combine foresight processes to innovation processes. Strategic foresight lecture, the previous one, was about how we could better combine foresight to strategy work. And here how we could combine foresight work and processes to innovation processes. About these different attitudes towards the future, we can be passive or we can be reactive, reacting after something happens. We can be proactive, but we can be still stronger towards the future orientation. We can be proactive. And it is in this approach and attitude that innovativeness, innovations are most closely related, where we are scanning possible alternatives with a very wide scope and range. So innovation and innovativeness of course means finding new solutions, new ideas, but combining maybe new ideas to old ideas and etc. About if we want to sort of have an impact of on the future and affect the future, we have to imagine the future and go with the flow very openly. And if we want to focus on visions, we have to use innovation and creativity in building these visions. And this means that when we think about methods, methodologies, it means that we have to develop methods specifically to spur and stimulate innovative ways to foresight. So even methods evolve and develop. When we use them, we find which is not functioning, which functions better, we can add some new elements. So methods are not something that are very rigid or stable. They themselves evolve. So, for example, the Delphi method, I mentioned this expert survey, it is now real-time Delphi, which is the most popular. It means that not only using the internet, collecting the expert views and argumentation through the internet, but having the material on the internet all the time, so that in real time participants can go and have a look what other participants have said and see all the time the situation and the accumulation of arguments. So real-time Delphi is now the most popular one. And about this combination of methods, I already told you, it may be a methodological development that you combine such methods that are not usually combined. Like in scenario work, it is very normal to combine futures workshops, Delphi, futures table, it is very common. But if you should experiment combining some methods that are not usually used in combination, that may result in some innovative new methods. And now the latest trend actually in methodological development is, it's only a minority of futurists that are doing this, but sort of the aim of developing a method or using a method is experiencing the future. Not just imagining or envisioning a future, but could we somehow experience the future? Like we have virtual communities, we have Second Life, it's an analogy. Second Life is like a virtual world, it doesn't exist, but it feels like if you are, how many of you are avatars in Second Life or have used? None of you.
We don't have time probably.
Yes, yes. Actually it could be, because Millennium Project, which is a serious futurist network. They have last year set up a site in Second Life. And
Second Life is like this. Basically, it's kind of like some kind of video game where you create something, really a Second Life.
yes, but it can also be used for like video conferences. Let me tell you an example.
I've seen it. My nephew's an IT
Yes.
expert and he loves it.
I could add a link. You could go to see the site.
Secondlife.com, is it?
Sorry?
Is it secondlife.com?
Yes, but I can show you the site where Millennium Project has its meetings. It was an experiment. Last year there was this Millennium Project Planning Committee meeting. It was in Chicago. I couldn't go there because it was a long way and expensive. So they decided, because it is 30 networks, the network of 30 nodes. So those people who couldn't travel to the planning committee meeting, they could attend the meeting through Second Life.
Yes, I
And
read
they
it
have a
somewhere,
room.
yes.
Yes.
It was on The Economist as well.
I think I've read about it. I think that's where I
Okay.
read about it.
On The
Yes.
Economist, I think I read
So
about it.
they have an own building. It's like a video game, but it's you can use it for work.
I've seen it working.
Yes.
Function.
So I
Really
put the
interesting.
site so you can go and you can't attend the meeting, but you can see the meeting room. It's like a
Yes.
room, and so it's a sort of effort going like this experience and the future, also this presence. You can be virtually present as well. But besides imagining and envisioning the futures, could we experience these envisioned futures? I mentioned yesterday Hawaii University experiment where they built these rooms. Each scenario was built within a room representing the scenario, and when the decision makers, policy makers came in, entered the room, they somehow
Experience.
yes.
Yes, that's very interesting because it's different. Even though you are a good writer and you
Yes.
can write the words, very strong words to describe a scenario,
Yes.
it's like prototyping.
That's
When
right.
you're prototyping a product, it's
Yes.
different just describing it or even drawing it to actually touching it
That's
and
right.
trying it.
Yes, it comes closer to you when you have something you can touch and see for yourself. So actually, what I'm interested at the moment, how could we develop new methods for experiencing the future? I call it Future 3.0. And one possible method, or this is again an approach, is Creative Foresight Space. It is also a project at Finland Futures Research Center. I have developed this concept. It's called Creative Foresight Space. It is a physical space, and the purpose of this physical space, it could be like a room like this. The purpose of this physical space is to stimulate at the same time creativity. That's why there is Creative Foresight Space, and also futures thinking. So Creative Foresight Space should stimulate both creativity and futures thinking, because we have a lot of innovative spaces, physical spaces in offices where people try to be, or the purpose of those spaces is to make people creative. But I haven't seen places where this element of futures thinking is added. So creative futures thinking. Can we creatively think about the future? And this concept uses several elements. I had a video from Helsinki City Library where we had the first pilot, and they had even subtitles in English, but this machine couldn't show it. So during the break I still tried to have it, because you could see the pilot in Helsinki City Library. But one element is futures window method. Like we have futures wheel, this is futures window. Originally it is developed by Heinonen, and I have developed this Creative Foresight Space, and we have combined it so that we use futures window within this physical space, Creative Foresight Space. And it is a physical space. It can be built, now it was built within City Library for a pilot period of 2 months. It can be built in offices, in universities, in your company even. It's a combinational, like, not conference room, not a library, not a coffee corner, but a combination of all that. You can very relaxedly be there and enjoy the elements that are inside that space. Not just physical elements, but physical room connected to virtual worlds and using digital tools, etc. So it's a very complicated to explain, so that's why I'm going to show you one element, one futures window that is very often used within a creative foresight space, and it can be used for futures workshops, or it can be just used for stimulating futures thinking. And this futures window will be about visual weak signals and emerging issues. Yes?
That's a question. These future windows and spaces for futures thinking, are they moderated in any way?
Yes, they are moderated.
Because there are crazy people out there, and they really build an image of the future based on these 3D images.
Yes.
There are people who have gone out and killed people simply because this is my image of the future. You know, these nutters.
Yes,
Um,
and trigger off something.
Because it's good to have the freedom of space to do it, but what
Yes.
if they build a community of, I don't know, building bombs and
There's
terrorists
ethical,
and so on.
ethical issues attached to
And
it.
such as
Ethical issue, and yes,
terrorism, I mean, it's all happening online.
Yes.
Today, communities.
yes. And these are used in moderated workshops where the participants are invited. But in library, this space that we put, this pilot space, it was meant not to using these weak signals. These are used within workshops inside creative foresight space. But we had elements telling about future studies, telling about the institutions, showing books, not only Wendell Bell type classical or Club of Rome reports, but also science fiction books and fiction books about the future. So it was a nice, people could go there.
I guess it's like any other technology. When we talk of genetic technology, genetic engineering, for
Yes,
example,
it can
there's
be.
the
There's always
misuse and the
yes. And technology in itself is neutral, but how technology is being used is a moral and ethical issue. It can be used for good or for bad, and it's an element inside us humans that we can do things that are negative or positive. So actually it's a very much a moral and ethical issue, and that is a point where we should need education about how to think about the future in a positive way and how to somehow try to help. Yes. But this will be very provocative. So please fasten your seatbelt. But it is moderated. So Sophie, could you please take the lights on? I'll show it a few times